Alright, I'd like to apologize because I just got braces and so this audio is going to sound a little weird. But before this video begins, I urge you to support the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. It is very important because without them, you wouldn't be able to consume the media you like. So if you're a multi-billion-dollar media conglomerate watching this for some reason, pay your actors and writers more. Alright, on with the video. Hello there, my name is Jadne and welcome back to Los Barbalos. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Barbenheimer. So, this summer I've been pretty bad with uploading, and I've seen quite a bit of the movies that have come out this summer. Okay, I've seen two. Okay, I've seen three before. Okay, I've seen like four, but yeah, I didn't make the video on The Flash because I was lazy. I didn't make a video on Asteroid City because it's a Wes Anderson movie and I don't really have much to say about his movies. But Asteroid City was pretty good. I made a video on Dial of Destiny, and I hadn't made a video since. Let me explain the Barbenheimer phenomenon real quick. So during COVID, Warner Brothers wanted to push movies to streaming. Christopher Nolan didn't like that, so he moved production companies over to Universal, and as an FU to Chris Nolan, Warner Bros. Decided to release Barbie on the same day as Oppenheimer, and it kind of got flipped on its head. These are probably going to be the most successful films of the year, at least Barbie is. Oppenheimer's going to be up there, at least for an R-rated movie. And though Barbie had a very big ad campaign, the biggest component for these films' success was the memes surrounding their release dates, which is kind of wild, and this is like the second time this has happened to Christopher Nolan, because in 2008, The Dark Knight and Mamma Mia released on the same day. So on Thursday, the 20th of July, 2023, I watched Oppenheimer with my grandparents in IMAX. It wasn't 70mm, but you know, our IMAX is pretty good. Then, a couple days later, I saw Barbie on the 22nd, just by myself. Listen, I know I didn't do the double feature, but I saw Oppenheimer the day before, so I get the pass, alright? Oppenheimer is directed by Christopher Nolan. I have a very rocky relationship with Christopher Nolan's movies because though I respect a lot of his movies, I don't necessarily enjoy them. I don't think he's ever made like a bad movie, at least from the ones I've seen. But there's some movies that I like and there are some movies that I respect. Like I like Inception and Interstellar and kind of The Prestige. I have my problems with it, but I think it's a really good movie. But the ones that I think are good, but I don't personally enjoy, The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. Honestly, since I'm not the world's biggest fan of him, I think Oppenheimer is probably my favorite movie by him. And now that is a very big statement and I'm prepared to get attacked in the comments. But it has a basis. Like The Prestige was based on a book and Dunkirk was based on actual events, but something about him following a specific person just really worked. It is based on a book called American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin, so it wasn't his story to come up with. Like I'm presuming Dunkirk, he came up with the story himself, though it, of course, took place during World War II. Maybe I liked it because I was kind of set up to see it. It was, like, perfect timing. I learned about Oppenheimer a couple days ago before the movie came out, and to get familiar with Oppenheimer as a person before it comes out, all the way back in, like, December, I made a slideshow on Oppenheimer because it was, like, choose a scientist, and so I chose this guy. And it got me a pretty good grade, so thanks, Chris. The movie sits at exactly 3 hours, and for a 3-hour film, Oppenheimer flies by. It has the same pacing as Wolf of Wall Street, but if Wolf of Wall Street wasn't as energetic and... Okay, let me explain this. Like, I watched a couple reviews, and I think it was Carson Runquist or Cosmonaut, I'm not sure who said it. They said that since it's a mostly dialogue-based movie, the scenes that are just men sitting in a room are like shot and edited like action scenes. I always had a thing, and I don't remember what review I said it in, but I always had a thing where if something is slow and can tamper the engagement of your film, at least make it look interesting or have it move in a way that is interesting. And Christopher Nolan nails down the point of that rule. Though it has some slower parts in the middle and the beginning, it flies by. I made a lot of comparisons to The Social Network, especially with the screenplay, which is a very complicated screenplay that I kind of want to read, also just to figure out what the hell they're saying, because the sound mixing was kind of weird. But it reminded me of The Social Network, just without the Aaron Sorkin, like, rhythm. It has that high-speed pacing that keeps your engagement the whole time. And that probably has to do with the fact that there's a lot of stuff going on, which makes it kind of hard to follow at some points. But they managed to trim down, like, all the fat and excess stuff, and yeah, it's still 3 hours, but it could be a lot more boring. I'm looking at you, Scorsese. You gotta trim some of your movies, man. Also, the sex scenes, yeah, they're in there, but they're not 15 minutes long. I have no clue where the hell that came from. Florence Pugh isn't even in the movie for that long. Like, they all take place during the first act, which is very just, like, expository, and it's kind of more about his life right before the bomb. It's kind of slower. This is a lot of the talking. The whole movie is pretty much just talking. But you kind of get to see Oppenheimer's college life, and I really like the gothic aesthetic that Christopher Nolan went with. I think it was shot at UCLA, which is... It's pretty slow, but the movie starts to pick up as soon as they start developing the bomb, like after they start building up Los Alamos and stuff. Also, funny thing, the cinematography of Los Alamos, it was like introduced with these massive swooping shots of the desert, and for some reason, maybe it was the coloring and just maybe desert in general, it reminded me a lot of Nope. I looked it up. This is also shot by Hoyt van Hoytema. Love that guy. He's doing some great things. But there was one scene in particular that I think it's a perfect scene. And that is right before the explosion. There was so much tension and anxiety. If you're going into this movie expecting an explosion, prepare to be maybe let down. I don't know. Just prepare to be focused on other things before you get to the explosion. But when you get to the explosion itself is really beautiful on IMAX. But it kind of... I wouldn't say it was disappointing, but it just... I don't know how to explain it. It just... I didn't feel like... It was kind of... The explosion itself was kind of like... Oh, okay. It's cool, but... I was expecting a little bit more. That's not a bad thing, by the way. The explosion is beautiful. And very loud. Just be prepared. This movie is really loud, especially after that in the latter act. Jesus. My heart was genuinely racing. I was probably sitting at the edge of my seat. During this, 5-10 minute sequence, my eyes were glued to the screen. Perfect cinema. The practical effects really pay off. They are fantastic, and it gives it more weight than if it was completely CG. Probably because there's just... knowing that it's real. Being like, damn! They did that. What kind of underplayed it, maybe, was that they focused more on the people rather than the explosion. There was the whole... gallery of the explosion is yes, that's beautiful, but then you see, the face of Oppenheimer just staring at what he's created. And from that point on, you get the mix of, yes, the bomb ended World War II, but also, he just created a new technology that, if the wrong person gets a hold of it, can destroy the world. And that is perfectly portrayed by Cillian Murphy. I didn't have anything against him. He usually was just the side characters in the movies I would watch. I watched a couple episodes of Peaky Blinders. Dude's badass. He is brilliant. I hope he wins this Oscar. I don't know what movie's coming out that can beat him. Maybe Joaquin Phoenix and Napoleon, but that's about it. He looks a lot like Oppenheimer as the movie goes on. You start to just let it sink in, and it gets less, oh, that's Cillian Murphy, and more that's... Damn. He does this, death stare, or, what is it, the 1,000-mile stare or whatever, where his eyes are just, open the whole time, and he just looks so exhausted, and it's so good. It's very realistic, especially with the dialogue. He hides his Irish accent pretty well. For some reason, I knew he was Irish, but I was expecting, a British accent maybe to slip out, so, yeah. And also, he is very attractive, and, the older he gets, the more attractive he gets. I don't know. I don't know why I just turned into a TikTok For You page girl, but whatever. RDJ as Louis Strauss. He had some of the most engaging moments of the movie. Did I know what was going on? No. But seeing Robert Downey Jr. play something other than Iron Man was really eye-opening. I knew he was a great actor. In Zodiac, he's great. But since he's playing a real person, he has less leeway, and he doesn't have to do this great a job because, he's Robert Downey Jr. He just did a multi-billion-dollar, I think it's the highest-grossing franchise of all time. He knocks it out of the park. Emily Blunt as Catherine/Kitty Oppenheimer. She has probably my second favorite scene in the movie where she's getting questioned. My only issue is that she kind of gets those, quintessential trailer biopic lines that, all of them have. And honestly, as a biopic, I don't know how accurate it is. I'm presuming it's really accurate because it's Christopher Nolan, who's pretty much a perfectionist. It separates itself from other biopics, like Wolf of Wall Street 2, kind of The Social Network, but Oppenheimer has the advantage of being directed by one of the best filmmakers in this current landscape of cinema. Like Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, it's directed by Scorsese. Scorsese's great, but his newer movies are just so long. Like, Irishman was good. Could have been cut down, though. Actually, I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know why I said that. But, like, Killers of the Flower Moon, same runtime. What also has the advantage is the amount of cameos, or just the amount of actors in this movie. Matt Damon is in this movie. I forgot. He does a pretty good job. After I saw Air, I realized, like, damn, this guy's actually a pretty good actor. And in this movie, he kind of just plays Matt Damon, but Matt Damon is fun to watch. Some crazy cameos that, for some reason, I was expecting, but also wasn't expecting. Roderick the guy who plays Roderick, Devin Bosnick, I believe, in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, is in this movie. He's not in it a lot, but he has his moments, and it was so nice to see this man on screen again. He's so good, and I want him to get roles so badly. Josh Peck was in this movie. Someone made a joke that was like, his face has definitely seen an iPhone before, and like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I get it. Rami Malek, he didn't really do anything. He just like said stuff, but he did a pretty good job. And Dane DeHaan from The Amazing Spider-Man, it was great seeing him on screen. I'll say that. Warning, there's a Kenneth Branagh jump scare. I was not expecting that. Anyway, if you don't know my rating system, an 8 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 is a golden ticket, and 9.5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10 is a trophy. I'm going to be giving Oppenheimer a 9.5 out of 10. Now, I would see this movie again if it wasn't 3 hours. I'm probably going to see it again soon, but like, I need to take a little break from it. I think this is a great movie. It is worth a watch. I recommend it. See it in IMAX. It's worth the money. It's a great sound system. I believe afterward it would benefit from subtitles because just to be able to follow it. Overall in the year, it is currently my number 2 behind Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I wish that this movie beat that, but something just held it back. But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It probably filmmaking-wise, I actually can't say that. I was going to say it might be better than Spider-Verse, but Spider-Verse is just so good. But now let's talk about the first part of the Barbenheimer, Barbie. I don't have the world's strongest relationship with Barbie. My cousins had Barbies. My sister had Barbies. I sometimes played with my sister's Barbies, but that's about it. But it's being directed by Greta Gerwig. It's being co-written by Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig. What's not to be excited about? After Oppenheimer, I really need some cheering up to do because, yeah, I was more interested in Oppenheimer. I was a lot more excited for Barbie. I love Little Woman, and I thought Lady Bird, it's pretty good. It has a lot of relatable scenes, but neither of those movies are comedies. This one is a comedy 90% of the time. And you can tell just how talented both of these writers are. Noah Baumbach, I think I've only seen Marriage Story and seen a couple Wes Anderson movies that he's co-written. He's great, fantastic writer. I'm so glad that there was a comedy to come out on the same day as Oppenheimer, because that means there's an option to go see a depressing movie and a hilarious film. And this film is hilarious, but I will get to that. Let's talk about the performances. Margot Robbie as Barbie is fantastic. I really didn't have any doubts. Of course, when hearing about the Barbie movie, it was like, okay, what, like, great. Like, I might have seen it, but then the trailer started coming out, and then there was a whole Barbenheimer meme, and it was like, yeah, I'll go see it. She delivers a fantastic performance. She has a lot of great line delivery that's very Barbie-esque, and she gives a lot of depth to the character, which is like, you're not expecting that from Barbie. Ryan Gosling as Ken, listen, he might be too old. Nah. Ryan Gosling is one of the funniest comedic actors of our generation, and there is no one better to play Ken in this movie than him, or any of the other main Kens that they casted. Simu Liu is also in this film, and he is probably the one that got the funniest laughs out of me. He probably has one of my favorite moments in the movie during the dance sequence, both at the beginning and the end. Okay, he's just so cocky, and it's just seeing these, like, very strong, usually masculine guys be in such a silly role, especially Ryan Gosling. We're going back to him. He is so silly in this movie. Like, I think one of his only comedic acting chops that I've seen was Nice Guys, and I wouldn't say that movie's a straight comedy. I think it's, like, a comedy, but it has some other elements to it, too. He's just so funny in this movie. Like, the way he delivers some of the lines and the plot lines he's given, the best way to describe him is funny. Michael Cera as Alan is so awkward, and he reminds me of me. If anyone's literally me other than Ken, it is Alan. Michael Cera is just so awkward, and I love it so much. Will Ferrell as the Mattel CEO, it's one of his better roles, but like, you start off, you expect it to be like a quintessential set of characters, but then they're just like, there? I don't know how to explain it. Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie. I'm not the biggest fan of Kate McKinnon. I think she has some really great moments on SNL. She was pretty good in this movie. She had a lot of really good jokes. America Ferrera and Ariana Greenblatt, I'm kind of putting them together because their characters are together for pretty much the whole movie. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting the human characters to be annoying once I realized how long they were going to be in the movie for, but they actually had some pretty good arcs and really compelling, especially America Ferrera. Like I said, this movie's a comedy, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach are great comedy writers. This movie, luckily, doesn't really rely on physical comedy because I'm not the world's biggest fan. I think it can be done, but there are times where it can just come off as quirky or just kind of cheesy, and sometimes, there's a couple times this movie to where it doesn't work for me, especially near the beginning, but like Weird Barbie doing the splits, I thought was not that funny. There's this one scene where Barbie jumps into a car, and it's just like, woo! It's hilarious. There's a few references in this movie, like they mentioned The Shining at one point. There's the whole crux of the plot is based around a Matrix joke, and the whole like first minute, maybe minute and a half, is parodying 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like they even get that match cut in there. Perfect. Of course, there are the expected callbacks to Barbie, like there are the high heels, there are the numerous references to older Barbie dolls, and then there's some fourth wall breaks. I'm not going to spoil it, because the fourth wall break is one of the best jokes in the film, and it comes out of nowhere. There's a lot of meta jokes in there, but it's not like annoying meta. You know how like the MCU is like annoying meta? Sometimes. They do a pretty good job here. The anti-Mattel jokes, the amount of anti-Mattel jokes in here are shocking, considering Mattel made the movie, and I was expecting that to temper it. Nope. The song Just Ken. Okay. If I made this video before I got my braces and I had enough time to make it, I would have totally gotten my friends together to parody Just Ken. It is one of the funniest moments in the movie. It's something about the way Ryan Gosling performs the choreography. It is, I think, like, his second musical role after La La Land. There's a lot of oblivious jokes, especially, like, there's this running gag about Weird Barbie. There's the I'm Knuff sweater. I want that sweater so bad. It's sold out in $60. Wow! And there's just, like, the semi-narcissistic jokes. I love it. And there's a lot more emotion than I was expecting. The social commentary was like, yes, it's a Greta Gerwig movie, and I was expecting that, also since it's Barbie and like the whole crux of Barbie, but it's not really, as people are saying, like overly indulgent. It is perfectly worked into the film because that was like the point of Barbie, the feminist social commentary. This is not man-hating, and I don't understand why people are saying that, because what they do with the men is so freaking hilarious. It is very relevant, and I think the fact that people are flipping out proves that is a very true problem. Like, there's a lot of thought-provoking themes, and there's a mother-daughter plotline that's a lot more subtle. It doesn't really take over the story, but it's really well done. My only negatives with the movie is that the real-world sequences kind of went on for too long. I kind of wanted to spend more time in, like, the Barbie world. It reminded me a lot of, like, a really good SNL parody, and then, like, the Mattel HQ scenes, which also takes place in the real world. And then I just have a bullet point here that says classic Warner Bros. Intro music. For some reason, that excited me. Like I said about my rating system, I'm gonna give Barbie a 9 out of 10. It is easily rewatchable. It gives you lots to think about, and you should check it out. I can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray so I can watch it a couple more times and just bump to Just Ken. And now, the time that I've been waiting for, the showdown between Barbie and Oppenheimer. Personal preferences. As a film, from a filmmaking standpoint, technically, Oppenheimer is the better movie. It is fantastically made, has some of the best cinematography, acting, writing, editing, and directing of all time. And honestly, for an R-rated historical epic to be this popular, I think is a job well done. Barbie is just so much fun, and instantly became a comfort film for me. I will go back to this when it comes out physically and just rewatch it whenever I feel down. But like, honestly, the Showdown, don't choose one, choose both. They're both great movies in their own right and deserve to be watched. Whether or not you watch them back to back, I think you should watch Barbie first and then Oppenheimer. I made a joke where it was like, I'm gonna start off with Oppenheimer, start off with a boom, end off with a bang. No, start off with a bang, end off with a boom. You're gonna need some quiet time to think. Personally, Barbie ranks, I think, 5 or 6 below Guardians. I'm not sure if it's above Suzume or not, but I do think that both of these are great movies and both should be watched. I recommend both. So, thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, go support the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Pay your writers and actors more. Bob Iger. I had to think of a billionaire's name off the top of my head. I don't know what's coming next. This video was unscripted, if you couldn't tell. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay gold, everyone. Toodles! Oh, it's 237 like The Shining. Toodles!